Hello everybody, welcome to Diversity and Inclusion. This is class 2 and this is The Point. We're talking about strengths and working with people based upon strengths. Too long, and even to this day, for heaven's sakes, people are working in what they call inclusion. I call it integration, but what they call inclusion, what they're doing is they're using those big old deficit files and they're trying to help support somebody based upon their deficits. They rely on things like disabling conditions, the definitions of disability, and they base their work on that. In inclusion, we do it a little bit differently. For example, I'm going to be dead honest with you. I never look at the files. I've worked with tons of kids with unrecognized abilities, tons. And I have never looked at one of their files. I have never done any research in disabling conditions. I've had kids with Down syndrome, never read a thing about it. I've had kids with autism, never read a thing about it. Had kids with FASD and all the other stuff that goes along with that, never read a thing about it. I have had a conversation with a kid with FASD about what it meant, but never read a thing about it. Why? Because that's not important to me. Those are just labels, and they're deficit labels. They get stuck on you, and they're really hard to get off, as they say in the community. And I always like to try to get to know who the person is and what their strengths are, what they're good at. I know what they're struggling with. I see it in the daycare. I see it when we're working with. I know what you're having some troubles with. And but I can't do anything about it unless I know what you're good at, what your passions are, what your strengths are. And so we plan activities and opportunities and experiences based upon your strengths to lift you up and rise you up on your own strengths and gifts. Because that's what inclusion is. I'll give you a quick little story. And maybe this is one of the times I really learned that lesson. But I worked with this kid named Patrick. And Patrick, holy smokes, he struggled with language and speech. He was mainly grunts and sort of noises like that. He couldn't form a single word, and with that came behavioral troubles, because if you have a hard time communicating or other people have a hard time understanding your communication, it can be very frustrating. And so sometimes it's easier to make your point with a fist than trying to work out some form of communication. So he had that. So, and he wasn't fitting in, because inclusion means you're in, right? That just what it means. And he wasn't fitting in, so we weren't being very inclusive. So we had to figure out something, how we're going to bring Patrick in. So all the experts said all the sort of therapeutic stuff we had to do with him, but it just didn't feel good in my guts. It just didn't feel right to me. So I ended up asking his mom when she picked him up, and I said, "What's Patrick into? Like, I don't have a clue about this kid. I don't have a clue about him." And she said, "Oh my God, pirates. It's just pirates. Everything's pirates with Patrick." Which made a big connection to some of his behavioral problems, his pirate play that he was doing that we didn't realize was pirate play. So, all right, pirates. So guess what we did? Yeah, we went thematic. I'm sorry. I'm an emergent curriculum guy. But I'll do anything for a kid. I'll do anything to make sure that kid fits in. So we did a bunch of pirate stuff. We just sort of immersed the room in pirates. I like pirates. So we immersed the room in pirates. We had sword fighting. We had a dramatic play that was pirates. We had like pirate stuff in the sensory table. That was it. That was it. I still remember. I still remember the morning Patrick came in when my colleague and I spent the weekend at the daycare making this pirate symbolic play area and this pirate ship and stuff like that. And again, I'll do anything for a kid to feel included. I'll put the time in. And when he came on Monday morning, his jaw just dropped. That was it, man. Because, half the other kids in the daycare that we didn't realize were also into pirates. And then Patrick could be a leader. Patrick led the play. Patrick led all the symbolic play, led all the sensory play, which then morphed into all kinds of other play other than pirates. And then all the kids saw Patrick differently, right? They didn't see him as the kid who couldn't speak and got himself into trouble a lot. They saw him, holy smokes, that's the kid who really knows pirate play and a really darn good sword fighter. And then he got friendships. And the friendships were the things that built him and helped him. Now, Patrick ended up moving to another daycare center because his mom got another job. So, we saw little bits and pieces of sort of progress in his language. But then it was like 5 years later. 5 years later, I ran into him and his mom at some event, and he's speaking eloquently. Eloquently. It all starts when you build on someone's strengths. It all starts that when you spend the time to figure out who someone is and give them the things that they're really good at, and they build from there, that's when you truly grow. That's the fertile ground. That's the nurturance that people need. You're never built from your deficits. You are never built on what you can't do. You're always built on what you're good at, and you're always built on what you can do, because we all know that's the point.